Good morning. I wanted to share my thoughts, but I don't know if everything is connected correctly. Let's see how it goes. I've been trying to do this since yesterday. um, it's my take on the drones activity. All right. I think everybody knows that this technology has become very popular amongst the military. They've been using it, a lot because it's an excellent delivery system. It has no arm for the pilot, and it can also be used to spy. Yes, and it can vary in size. It can be very small, and it can also be very big, like the size of a minibus. I've seen pictures of these. I've shared in my community page some pictures of these drones. Now, there's been a lot of activity. Um, to me, it could be intimidation, it could be deception, and it's definitely the military flexing. They are flexing their technology, showing off. Yes. Or they might be just doing some exercises. Yes. They could be testing something or scanning for something. It could be um, the military doing what they do, right? Whatever it is that they are doing. But something arises something arises when especially around cities. It's always around cities, but not exclusively, that self-destructing ideologies, for instance, are born. Self-destructing ideologies, uh, because they are isolated from the truth. When you live in a city, you are isolated from common sense. You are isolated from the natural order of things. So this isolation, can distort your perception of the world. So people around cities, for instance, there was a blackout in a big city once, and for the first time they saw the stars in the sky. Some people became paranoid and scared and start panicking. They never seen this thing in their whole life, and they thought it was some alien invasion or something, or a Russian attack, or people are crazy enough to believe those things. Is amongst the surprise, this type of surprise, this type of impact, that people manifest their fears. They can also manifest their desires, right? But when they see these things, it's mostly fears. They manifest their fears in the most, brutal way. Literally, in their mind, it becomes reality. Even though it's subjective, they think it's reality. Of course, it's not the same experience for everybody else. Someone living in the countryside actually has more connection into the natural world, can see these things a lot more clearer. But they are not immune, of course, and that's when trauma enters the equation. Trauma, living in a city causes trauma, like I just expressed, but living in the country also causes. I mean, trauma is independent. It's not exclusive to cities. People who live in countryside can also suffer from trauma induced by not the lack of natural order, but other things. You know, um, some trauma when you were, growing up. It could be an accident. It could be, an attack, or from someone or something. Trauma, can occur anywhere. Although, in the countryside, the specific one that I was talking about, the isolation is not, that much, that much registered. If that makes any sense, what I'm saying. All right. So, so in the city, when they start seeing these drones going about, and I'm not denying that some people are playing with their images in Photoshop, just to make more of an impact. They are distorting and the images and videos, but also autofocus on cameras sometimes is not, good. Manually focusing your camera sometimes is better, or simply the camera doesn't have any, enough potency to, like a telescope, to get a clear image of those things. And uh, I mean, what I'm trying to say, sometimes cameras in the presence of light or reflective light, they can't, get a clear picture of it. And then what we have is something distorted. It's distortion of this emanation or projection, right? So what we see is just an orb, hovering orb, right? It's enough to cause panic. It manifests, people's fears and sometimes desires. Can be positive, negative, or neutral. You know, if you try to stay neutral and use facts, logic, and wisdom, I mean, it would be better, because what I think is people are overreacting. Again, manifesting, their inner fears when they see these things. And so this leads me to the observer paradox. There's this idea, this concept, a situation in which phenomena is being observed and unwittingly influenced by the person present. No, the person present has no influence whatsoever. What they are trying to do is gaslight you. They are trying to gaslight you with this paradox in order to implement the idea that reality is subjective. No, reality is objective, and we are not co-creators, which is another concept they try to pass with that. It's a situation in which the individual, or in the collective, might manifest with the power of their mind something in this world, like an apparition or a floating orb or a mythical creature. And often these apparitions are always out of focus, and either through your naked eye or camera, it's always out of focus. And this inability to perceive it fuels the trauma that's already resident in people. It fuels their fears, it can also fuel their desire. They panic, they might panic or get ecstasy about it. Some people actually are driven into these things. They are in ecstasy, they really want to be a part of it. Others know they want to run away. you know uh, what's going on, right? What's going on is that some people, because they've been so disconnected from the natural order of things, they get scared and panic. I mean, totalitarian regimes would love to keep people in this situation. Why? Because totalitarian regimes are completely against the natural order of things. So, if they can convince you that, for instance, reality is subjective and there is such a thing as the observer paradox, that you are a co creator, somehow you can manifest these things in the world, then it means their paradigm, right? And if they can convince you of their paradigm, because this, if you haven't noticed, this kind of gives you special powers, doesn't it? Your presence can co-create, can rewrite history. I'm sorry, history, yes, of course, history, reality. Can This kind of gives you special powers to the to the individual, doesn't it? That's what every, one of these commies loves to induce in people, is this. In the beginning, they feed you this idea to grease the wheels, to convince you that their ideology kind of empowers the individual, and it's all about individual this, individual that. All those privileges, but they are highly subjective, all of them. So they will feed these ideologies, these totalitarian regimes. They will love, to tap into this trauma and feed you and encourage trauma. For instance, what we are witnessing, that is horrible. They are pretty much helping, people with difficulties perceiving their gender, encouraging them, to do all sorts of surgeries, even though they are, children still, or they are encouraging, these things, or encouraging not only, hacking sexual organs, but anything that is social, that everything is subjective and everything is a social construct, you know, giving power to the individual. These, like I was saying, it's just these pathological people trying to feed trauma and use it against, trying to feed it, overflate it, and then once they managed to destroy the natural order, that's their goal. They just don't like the natural order of things. Once it's defeated, they then can flip the script. They always do that when they get into power. In the beginning, everything is subjective and everybody is empowered. They are feeding, your ego, feeding your traumas. And when they get into power, they are almost unknowable. You can't perceive them. You can't see them clearly. Who are they? What is all about? It feels so good. Well, you are being sold. You are being, honey trapped. And once they get into power, they flip the script. And since natural order has been, overwritten with their nonsense and their crazy making, they can flip the script and force on you. And it's no longer the individual, right? The part that I was saying, trauma and encouraging the ego, it's no longer the individual, the important part. No, it becomes the collective. They then start shaming the individual and they flip the script, because what they really want is to use the mentally ill, the people who are, in cities that are not, are deprived from the truth, people who are deprived from light, so to speak. They want to use them as ammunition to get them into power. And once they are in power, then they can flip the script on you. Guess what? Thank you for helping me attain power, but now I'm going to reign over you like an overlord. And if I hear anything about individuality or whatnot, you will be shamed, persecuted, etc., and punished accordingly. They always do that. They flip the script. So I would be very careful around the observer paradox or the co-creator, or for instance, gender is a social construct. All of these crazy, there's no man can have children, or stuff like that. They are trying to distort things, and when they get into power, they will flip the script on you. So that's one of the applications, right, of what I'm trying to say here. So let's go back to the drones. I mean, it's just, it can be unidentified objects, meaning you don't know what it is. True, it's not from outer space, right? Everything that you're seeing is technology most of the times. If it's really, really a phenomena, natural phenomena, I mean, look into history. It's probably mentioned, in all ancient cosmologies. Yes. For instance, there's Rahu and Ketu mentioned in the Vedic, cosmology, which is these two bodies that coexist, and one of them is actually invisible to our eye. I'm sorry, Rahu and Ketu. Maybe I'm mistaking terms here. I was trying to talk about the the black sun. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm getting this wrong. Yeah, I was talking about the black sun. That there's this concept in Vedic cosmology. There's actually two suns. Yes, the sun that is visible that you can see, and then there's another sun next to it that is invisible to our eyes. This phenomenon has been captured by telescopes. It's been proven to be true. There's actually, using different filters, there's actually people who capture the second sun. So, and I forgot the point I was trying to make. Okay, anyway. Yeah, look into history. Yes. Cosmology, history, philosophy. It's mentioned, you know, if you have doubts, it might be mentioned. For instance, there's tribes, isolated tribes. They actually know better, the comets and moons of planets better than any modern astrologer, and they never had access to a telescope, and still they know these things. You know, there are some comets that visit, in long distances, apart, and these tribes, they know all about it. So anyway, I don't know if I'm making any sense, but so the essence was, uh, there's drones in the sky. It could be the military flexing their technology. It could be another nation flexing their technology for the purposes of intimidation, right? And deception. It could be them doing exercises. I mean, it could be anything. But what we can extrapolate is that yes, there's drones in the sky, and they are not aliens or ghosts or fairies or goblins or no. These are really, man-made objects, and but out of focus, which some people have indeed, made so, with, programs, digital programs like Photoshop. They've transformed these into this mythological thing, trying to hijack people's traumas. They are hijacking people's traumas and encouraging them, right? Again, this is all could be part of deception. Yes, this could be part of deception. Um, all right, I think I'm gonna shut up. Tell me what you guys think. Have a nice day.